Howdy folks, Justin here, and I am really excited to be talking about some things today. First of all, congratulations to Elder Scrolls Legends. We made it, like, right? We're out of beta. The game has been released, and to go along with that, we have a ton of really exciting news. Um, we've been told that in the next few months we're getting support on several different mobile platforms. You know, the dates have been posted for that. We've been told that in addition to an expansion pack, a full expansion, you know, a large expansion of cards coming this summer, early summer, we were told that we are also getting a 40 card story mode expansion with a single player campaign attached to it coming out April 5th. And from that, I have a couple of cards that I want to show you all. So, I am here with the new stuff that we've been shown so far, and I want to talk about some of the ideas I have for what I want to do with these. Because I mean, at my heart, I brew decks, and having new cards to play with is super exciting. So the first one I want to take a look at here is Brotherhood Slayer. This introduces a new keyword that's being introduced to the game, and we've been assured that it's also going to be retroactively applied to creatures that would have it. You know, creatures like Archer and Venom Tongue, the 1/4 Endurance guy with lethal that gives you a max magic every time it kills a creature. Because Slay means trigger this ability when this attacks and kills another creature. And it itself, you know, it's going to go on Blood Magic Lord, stuff like that. Brotherhood Slayer here is just a pretty simple example of this. It's a common for those of you who are, you know, paying attention to the rarities of cards for Arena. But when Brotherhood Slayer attacks and kills an opposing creature, you get a completed contract card in your hand, which you can then use to get one max magicka in any turn. I like this because this is ramp outside of purple, which I'm really excited about, although it's temporary ramp. I like this card too because it's prophecy. You know, it's a card that, you know, green this 3-drop slot was for a long time thought to be really chock full of cards. I think this is a card that in some styles of decks is going to compete for spots, including one that I'm super interested in playing, Action Assassin, because of this card and another card that we're looking at. But I think Brotherhood Slayer is a really cool card. I think the Slay mechanic is really interesting. I like that they're keywording it because you know, it allows them to have more detailed triggered abilities. You know, when you just say Slay instead of when this creature attacks and, you know, destroys another creature. So yeah, I'm really excited about Brotherhood Slayer. I completed contract. You know, it is what it is. The synergy here is obvious to me. And the addition of another prophecy card could make Prophecy Assassin better, but I like this card in Action Assassin because completed contract as a 0-cost card combos nicely with Swindler's Market, combos nicely with Indral Archmage, combos nicely with Crystal Tower Crafter. Just a lot of stuff that you're going to probably want to be running anyway. This card makes those, you know, makes those cards better. So, the first one I wanted to look at, real excited about that card. Next up, we have our first new legendary creature, and this is one of the most exciting cards, not to mention some of the greatest art I've ever seen. This is Cicero the Betrayer. It's 6 magic for a 1/6 with lethal. So, you know, in a world where if you can run Execute, you're already running 3 copies because of the power level of that card and the types of decks that you're facing right now in the meta. Cicero definitely is weak to Execute, but look at that ability. Slay, draw 2 cards, okay? And anything this thing attacks that doesn't have ward is going to die. And if you're out of options on your opponent's board because they're trying to find an answer to Cicero instead of feeding you cards, that's cool. You just drop down your own Thieves Guild recruit and then attack it with a Cicero the Betrayer. Nab yourself some extra cards. I'm really, really excited about this card in Scout, a deck that can fall apart against the grindiest of decks in a late game because you're not drawing enough cards. I'm really excited about this in Spellsword Tokens as sort of like a curve topper alongside Golden Saint. I think that Cicero the Betrayer offers that deck, and I think that if any deck is the poster child for a deck that just runs out of resources and that's how they lose, it's Spellsword Tokens. And I think Cicero the Betrayer would fit perfectly into that deck. I'm really excited about this card in general. It looks cool. I want to get a hat like that. And I think that, especially in Spellsword Tokens, but also in slower Scout decks, this card is fantastic and will see play. this card alone is it's not going to change the archetype. It doesn't make a new archetype, but it slots so nicely into these decks and fills really one of their weakest points. So I'm really excited to play Cicero in those decks. Okay, next up we have Daggers in the Dark. This is the other card we've been revealed that has gotten me pretty excited about Action Assassin, a deck that has seen some serious highs and lows. There were times when people considered Action Assassin overpowered, and there are times like now when no one's playing Action Assassin. The Crystal Tower Crafter nerf hit reasonably hard. It made the turn 2 Crystal Tower Crafter into lesser ward, 3/3 ward on the board all of a sudden play a lot less exciting when it was just a 2/2 with ward that you had spent 2 cards to make. Daggers in the Dark goes a long ways, I think, towards revitalizing this archetype. Both because it's a spell that costs 0 magicka, which triggers Indroll Archmage and triggers your Crystal Tower Crafters and your Swindler's Markets, but also because it can function as a fantastic tempo play in a tempo deck versus tempo deck kind of match. 0 cost cards can frequently make or break those games, and this card just screws up combat math for your opponent in really, really dramatic ways sometimes in the early game, when those extra 1 points of power or toughness can really, determine how combat's going to go, and then who loses inertia, which is sort of how tempo on tempo matchups go. I think Daggers in the Dark is cool. I love the art on there. I get a real Morrowind feel from a lot of these cards, which is cool because I love the the feeling of Morrowind in general. But I think Daggers in the Dark is a pretty neat card. I don't think it's not good in Arena. I don't think it's pretty niche. The other cards fit into more places than this one, I think. But I can honestly even see people throwing this into new versions of Battle Mage aggro, for instance. Maybe using the creatures that get either plus defense or plus attack from being equipped with items, the red guard creatures. Those are powerful creatures that have never really shined, and I think that cards like this might be the sort of thing they need to be pushed into the competitive arena. But either way, I think that the immediate thought I have for this, Daggers in the Dark into Action Assassin, is solid, and I think that between this and the other green card that's been revealed, the 3/3 with Prophecy and Slay, draw a completed contract, I think Action Assassin is looking at as being a deck I definitely want to try out as soon as these cards come out. We got a couple cards left, well, 3 cards. First, let's look at the Night Mother. This is one of the most absurd cards I have ever seen in this game. The Night Mother is a unique legendary support that costs 2. Okay. And it says activate, summon a 0/1 target with guard for your opponent. So you put a 0/1 creature called guard, or called target, I'm sorry, onto the field under your opponent's control, I believe, and it has guard. And and the second ability is a triggered ability that's going to be triggered when this condition is met. It says once 20 enemy creatures have died, deal 20 damage to your opponent, gain 20 health, and drop to 20 cards. Now this is completely ridiculous, right? Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. In Arena, virtually unplayable, although maybe if it's in your opening hand, you can pull this off. But for the most part, this is a build-around unique legendary, which is sort of a risky proposition, but I am super excited to see this kind of card. Because this is the sort of card that, I mean, there is a subset of players that see this and are like, I'm going to kill people with the Night Mother, I'm going to spend 20 hours doing it, and that one time I do it, it's going to be totally worth it. I'm really glad to see that they're catering to all the players, all the types of players. And with cards like this, I'm not going to lie, like, I want to try this. I want to get the incredible title that I'm sure goes along with this card, because God knows there has to be an achievement and a title for pulling this off. I'm really excited about this card. I don't think it's, I don't think it's great. I think there's enough support removal floating around right now that you're going to be hard pressed to have this on the board for the deaths of 20 enemy creatures. But if you do, right, isn't it the coolest thing you've ever done? I'd love to see some casual matches, where a couple of friends are dueling with each other and trying to trigger their own Night Mother with the rule that you can't remove the Night Mother. So this is not a constructed level card, but what this is a lot of fun, and hopefully, like I said, attached to a really cool title. And this is the kind of card too that I'm really glad is being released in a in in a story in a single player campaign like this, because you don't want to open a pack, get that super that buzz in your stomach going when you hover over your card and it's a legendary card, and get the Night Mother if you're playing on a budget, you don't have a lot of cards, because the Night Mother is a very specific kind of card. And if you're the kind of guy who needs the Night Mother, like, you'll craft the Night Mother if it was available like that. The fact that they're throwing this at you inside the collection, alongside constructed playable cards, I think is perfect, and it's a great way to reward players who want to spend that extra time to do that extra ridiculous thing, because it's a game, and, like, why not have fun, right? So I like this. I look forward to goofing around with it. Lastly, we have a couple of cards here. First, let's look at Sanctuary Raid. That's the card on the right. The new willpower action card says destroy an enemy creature, give all friendly creatures in its lane +7/+7. Now, this does cost 7 Magicka, but I'm not, like, super concerned by that. I think, first of all, I think this is going to be incredibly solid in Arena. I think as a common, alongside Piercing Javelin, it might be enough to really make willpower significantly more powerful in Arena. It doesn't have prophecy, but it does, it is just like unconditional creature removal, and it also has, additional text, right? It buffs up your creatures a little bit. It's the kind of thing that could break a stalemate in Arena really easily. As far as constructed applications go, I mean, there are definitely decks that could benefit from a fourth Piercing Javelin that doesn't have Prophecy. Even if it costs 2 more, the kind of deck that would benefit from that, in my opinion, is the sort of deck that's going to make it to turn 7 with a chance of surviving longer, right? I like Sanctuary Raid in a couple places. I'm not sure I'm going to run it in Altar Monk, although I think Altar Monk is a deck where it would be more successful than it could be in other decks. I like seeing variations on the Destroy Creature ability in yellow. One of the things that I talked about a while back was that I really wanted to see our first expansion cement what each color can do, right? I didn't want to screw around with the color philosophy a whole lot. I wanted to make sure it was very clear, in fact, what strength, willpower, intelligence, endurance, so on, and agility do. And I think Sanctuary Ray does a good job of that by hitting the two, most obvious and yellow of abilities in destroying a creature unconditionally, and giving a whole bunch of other creatures a +1/+1 bonus. So I think that Sanctuary Raid is a pretty cool card. The art on it is pretty interesting. Um, like I said, I think this card has the most implications for Arena. I'm really excited to, I've sort of drifted away from drafting blue and green as much as possible in Arena, and have drifted towards drafting yellow and purple in Arena as much as possible. Just sort of as my own philosophy and my own approach to it has changed. I've noticed that I'm having more success with those colors. I think Sanctuary Raid is going to be pretty nice in those colors. I think Sanctuary Raid could work in, you know, Altar Crusader. I know I've seen one of those before. I think it's a card that could see constructed play. Will definitely be a factor in Arena from here on out, and I'm philosophically in line with, because I like the fact that each color is being each color's identity is being reinforced. Finally, we have Underworld Vigilante, or Vigilante, depending on, I guess, what part of America you're from, or wherever you're from for that matter. It's a 5 magic, a 4/1 with charge. That right there, I think we need to stop for a second and look at that. Um, People play Cliff Racer, okay? A lot of people play Cliff Racer, and it's in what you could argue is a less aggressive color than this one is. Agility is a little less aggressive, in my opinion, um, in principle, than strength is. Underworld Vigilante is already packing the sort of power and charge of a constructed playable card, of a card that sees a lot of play. The fact that this has additional text and can be used as removal is fantastic. And it's not just like single target removal either. This can totally screw up your opponent if they're trying to make a last run at you from the shadow lane. And in a color like red that sort of lacks direct targeted removal, Underworld Vigilante is a pretty interesting card. I think it will be fantastic in Altar of Despair decks that are running red. I think it is. I'm definitely going to try this card out in my mid-range Life Gain Crusader deck. I know that deck's kind of taken off lately. which frankly makes me incredibly happy because it's the deck I've worked on the longest to try to figure out a way to play. Um, but yeah, the Tears to Giant Fears deck I think could definitely benefit from this. Sorry about that noise. I have Facebook running in the background. Um, this is a really good card. Okay, one toughness is most of the time going to be completely irrelevant on this card. This is both removal and finisher, which is lightning bolt territory, and if it sticks around for an additional turn, requires an answer from your opponent because it is 4 power on the board. And the ability to remove cover from creatures in this lane that your opponent controls is incredible. Is a great step towards red cards that play well with control. There are control decks that run red cards, don't get me wrong. Like, in particular, I think of the Merrick Supreme Atromancer Battle Mage list. But those decks get to that point in the game by playing blue cards, right? It's not the red cards that are getting them there. It's the red cards that are comboing with Supreme Atromancer and killing you. Underworld Vigilante is a really cool way to use all elements that, kind of like when I was talking about Sanctuary Raid, all these philosophically red strength elements, and put them together in a package that can be used in a whole host of ways. I think the power level of this card might not immediately be apparent, but I think this card is definitely going to be played. I think the amount of play this card sees is entirely dependent on the strength of the other strength cards we get, but assuming that there are reasonable cards, just reasonable cards in strength, this card is going to be a factor in Constructed going forward after April 5th. I think I feel very comfortable saying that. So. Anyway, those are our new cards. We're gonna have more new reveals, from Direwolf and Bethesda over the next few weeks as we get closer to the release of, the release of Fall of the Dark Brotherhood, the name of this single-player campaign, along with 40 new cards that you can then take into Constructed. I'm really excited about all this. I hope you're as excited as I am. I will, keep letting you know as soon as I find out anything new, and I will see you all on the ladder. Bye-bye.